Hello, everyone. Thanks for coming. Justin Behrens from Keystone Mission. Justin, thank you for coming here tonight. You're going to do a brief explanation of who you are and what you do, and then if council has any questions for you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you, council, for allowing me the opportunity to speak. I try to encourage this with both departments that we work. We serve both Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, and so I ask that the engagement with, obviously, elected officials is very important. So my name is Justin Behrens. I've served and have the honor of serving as the Chief Executive Director for Keystone Mission, an organization dedicated to transforming lives of our homeless neighbors throughout Scranton and northeastern Pennsylvania. It is both a privilege and a responsibility that I do not take lightly. For me, this is not just work as a job, it's a calling. I serve Jesus Christ, our Lord, calls us to serve. Throughout Scripture, we are reminded the care of the poor, to love the outcast, to stand beside those who are hurting. Jesus himself said in Matthew 25, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one least of the brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." That foundation is my life, my leadership, and everything I do for Keystone Mission. My journey with Keystone Mission goes back years. I was there in the beginning, helping build the Transformation Center, the development shelters, the launching the Innovation Centers, and the Transformation Center, designed to move people from the streets into stability. I've worked closely with the cities and county administrations, along with the federal administration, in helping shape policies that protect our community while serving those who are the most vulnerable. And I have been taking part in tough decisions that aren't always popular, but are necessary to shift the needle in enabling homelessness towards a real lasting change. Along the way, I've written 2 scholarly articles that are the very issues we're discussing tonight: how to help homelessness and restore the dignity and opportunity rather than hurt them in the short fixes that keep them trapped. I've had the privilege of sharing those ideas in conferences across the country, leading discussions on how communities just like Scranton can come together to solve this issue. But no matter where I've gone and who I've spoken to, northeastern Pennsylvania has always been home, and Keystone Mission has always been my third child. So when I asked 3 weeks ago to return back as the executive director, it was a no-brainer for me. I said yes without hesitation because this mission matters. Our people matter, and this community matters. When we talk about homelessness in Scranton, it's easy to focus on what we see: the urination in public, the cursing, the drug use, the belligerent behavior. And yes, that's real. But what's really missing is people stuck in survival mode. A way of living where every decision is based upon how they will survive the next few hours. There's no space to plan for tomorrow when they're just trying to survive today. And it takes time, sometimes a year or more, for someone to break out of that mindset. 3 years ago, I, with Keystone Mission, opened up a transformation center down in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania, with a bold mission. We took 10 men who had been kicked out of every shelter in northeastern Pennsylvania. These individuals, where everyone else was given up on, we believed in them. We worked with them daily. We saw them firsthand in survival mode. Really looks like anger, addiction, fear, and hopelessness. And for the first year and a half, it was a fight. It was a fight for them to trust us, a fight for them to believe in everything change was even possible, but slowly we started to see it happen. We saw things becoming processed differently. We saw them making rational decisions, setting goals, and believed in the future they never thought was possible. And today, I'm proud to say and stand here and tell you, or sit here, and tell you that 6 of these men are now living in apartments and houses. Some of them are married, some of them have full-time jobs, and they're getting off government assistance. And most importantly, they've become role models for other people that are homeless, who are just starting their own journey and are homeless. That is real transformation looks like. That is the heart of Keystone Mission. Yes, we meet immediate needs, offering food, shelter, and safety. But our greater purpose is to walk with people all the way from crisis to stability, from homelessness to independence. But now this can't happen without partnership of the community. It takes us all, government, business, nonprofit, churches, and everyday citizens to come together, work as one, and build a lasting solution. Scranton has the heart, we have the resources, and together we can become a model of how communities can restore lives, rebuild hope, and break the cycle of homelessness for good. So I thank you for being here to answer your questions. And I want to say, I look forward to working together to bring hope and healing for those that most need it, because this is exactly what Jesus called us to do. So I'm here to answer any questions that you guys have. I know that this is a very touchy situation, the homelessness. It's all across this country. I did when I worked for Keystone Mission, about 8 years ago when I started this, I had a vision that we were going to start these transformation centers, that we were going to start transforming lives. We built one in Wilkes-Barre, and as I said before, we proved that it can be done. It has a 58% success rate. Across this nation, the average rate is 13% in success, and we're at 58%. So the model that we work does work. It's a Genesis/Keystone model we developed. We developed this model. We're actually going to get it patented, and we're going to try to market this, well, not market it, but we're going to try to share it across this nation as a new model to do it. Far too long, we've been focusing on the shelter piece of it, and we've been focusing on the immediate need. The book, When Helping Hurts, is something that transformed my life. Stephen Frickett wrote the book, When Helping Hurts, and it talks about how we just enable that society, we enable where they're going to go, and we don't really try and fix the problem. And so I dedicated my time when I was here about 8 years ago to figure out how do we fix that problem? How do we enable that? And we did that with Transformation Center. I have proven stats. I can email them to you so that you guys can see them of the success stories that we have. And those people that graduated, that opens up 7 more doors for 7 other people. So we're looking to try to really put a solution to this problem. And we have to start somewhere. So here in Scranton, we have the day room that we had set up. We worked with CIC and talked to CIC, who does an amazing work out there in the community. And we said, why are we duplicating services? That's really a waste of our resources. So we worked with CIC and said, hey, listen, we're willing to let you guys do the day room, and let's partner together and figure out what are those gaps that we can build and help out and deal with those individuals. And so we're looking at building a transformation center here in Scranton. One of our first goals is actually to have a female. We've never done a female transformation center. So we're looking at building a transformation center for females and also for males, but our first goal right now is the females. The second piece is we're seeing an influx of about 58 people coming into the overnight Code Blue shelter. That is a need. There is a need that we need to fix in this community, and that's the immediate need. But that's a great funnel to get them into our transformation center, right? And if you think about it in tiers, you have your shelter piece, right, which I'm just going to give you a category of like sleeping on cots, right? And then the next level is transformation center, which is sleeping in beds. They have their own place. They work with us in a bubble to really break that. Remember, it takes a year to a year and a half to really get them to start kicking from survival mode into the regular mode of like making rational decisions, and then move them into independent housing. So they're the 3 layers. Scranton, and I hate to compare cities because it's not fair, but in Wilkes-Barre, we have the shelter piece, 365-day shelter, that funnels into the transformation center, that funnels into the apartments. So we have a complete funnel system that goes, actually it's probably the opposite. It's more of a cone going up that fixes that. We can do that in Scranton. We can do that in Williamsport. We can do that in Hanover. We can replicate it, right? It does cost resources. It does cost dollars. We look for grant money. We're not very popular when it comes to grant money because of our background of who we are. But when we build partnerships, right, when we work with other organizations, we live too much in a silo system. And I can tell you that I'm breaking those silo systems. When they asked me to come back 3 weeks ago, I told the board it's not going to be Keystone Mission. The Keystone Mission doesn't need to be in the focus, doesn't need to do anything. We need to work together as a team. I've reached out to CIC. I've reached out to Scranton, to Catholic Social Services. I reached out to the players that are in that community and saying, listen, how together can we do this? How can we work together? And we are working together. The piece that we're missing right now is making sure that we have the government on board with us and then making sure that we have the business sector on board with us. Those are the 2 major factors. I don't think it's a politician that can solve this answer, and I don't think it's a nonprofit that can solve this answer. It's going to be everyone working together on full cylinders to take care of the homeless. And so we have things that we're looking at down the pike here for Scranton. Scranton is where we were founded, so of course there is a heart with the board for Scranton, and we are looking for that. And so I can tell you with confidence the Transformation Center is 100% what we are looking for in the next step, but we are open to trying to replicate what we do in Wilkes-Barre with a shelter 365, not the day room because we got CIC that does the day room, but we can partner with CIC and say to CIC, hey, you have your individuals during the day, now let's get them over to us during the night, and how can we make that happen? So we have that model already developed. It's how do we make that happen? And so we're excited. Again, I'm here to answer any questions that you have. I know I talk a lot, so Just,
Justin,
you can put the buzzer on
do
me.
you have any funding now? Where do you get funding from?
That's an excellent question. So I will speak, mind you, I've been away for 2 years. I was working with other institutions on homelessness, talking about them and how they do things, and consulting with other organizations. When I came back here about 3 weeks ago, I can tell you our funding is, we do have 2 grants that we got from a foundation, which is basically, it's not a federal foundation, it's not a no restriction foundation. It's a foundation by, one is bankers together, put money together and donated 10% of their funding to projects like this. We also get our funding from also other foundations that are really not affiliated with, they raise money themselves for it. The other piece is donations. About 64% of our operating cost comes from private donors across the country. I mean, I have to say, because we don't have just Wilkes-Barre and Scranton. We have people that donate from Chicago and all over. So we do have a large portion of it through donations. Presently, I'm working on right now on because of me traveling for 2 years and going around talking to people, I kind of made connections. So there is actually a foundation that is willing to put up money if we apply for it, which I'm applying for it, and I'm looking at $1.5 million from them in getting through that foundation, and that's through Pittsburgh Bank. So
So the model you speak of in Wilkes-Barre, how long did that take to come to fruition?
I missed the first part of that
Oh,
question.
I'm sorry. I always forget to turn my mic on. So the model you speak of that's successful in Wilkes-Barre, the 365, how long did it take to achieve that?
In Wilkes-Barre?
Yeah.
So we got, the city actually did partner with us to build that. I don't know if Mayor Brown explained that he donated, not didn't donate, he took money and allotted it for it. So he gave us money, we matched it 50% from it, and we built that in almost less than 6 months. It was built, and then we put the infrastructure to run it. So to answer your question, it took about 6 months, basically, to get that going. But here's the key, it's finding a location, right? And I'm being 100% honest, we went in Scranton, we looked at 3 different locations here in Scranton. I stood over there and I went in front of the zoning board, and the zoning board approved it, right? And then was appealed by other individuals saying, not in my backyard. The biggest battle we have is not in our backyard. It's finding out a location that will work, that works for the community, that also works for the homeless, and that also works for, obviously, for the population around.
So the money that you received from the mayor of Wilkes-Barre, was that ARPA funds? American
He got it
Rescue
from
Plan
United
funds?
Way. He got it from United Way, so I would assume that he got it from ARPA funds. He said the city got it. I would assume it was from ARPA funds, yes.
When we're looking at Wilkes-Barre and Scranton, what's the population in Wilkes-Barre of homeless?
So there is a larger population here in Scranton than there is in Wilkes-Barre.
Okay. Do you know what the numbers are in Wilkes-Barre?
I don't have them on hand with me right now, but I can tell you that we are seeing about anywhere between 40 to 70 people in Wilkes-Barre. Now, it sounds like it's larger than Scranton. The difference is that we're seeing a transient population in Wilkes-Barre, very large. People that are not from Luzerne County, that people are not from, they're kind of like doing that pit stop here at us, and then they stay for a couple weeks, and then they go on to the next location.
Is that also what we're seeing here?
We are seeing similar of that also here. Now, one thing about our facility is we do not check IDs. We accept anyone that comes through the door. So it's not like if you're a Scranton resident or you're a Luzerne County resident or a Lackawanna resident, we're not going to accept you. We accept everybody. The only difference is that in that 365 shelter, you're allowed to stay up to 30 days there. And as long as you participate in the program, you're allowed to stay there as long as you want. And when I mean participate in the program, I mean you're going to drug and alcohol rehab if that's an issue that you have. You're going to mental health help if that's what you have. You're going to job placement, whatever that is. We want you to continue moving forward, because our goal is not to keep you there. Our goal is to get you moving into your own place. And so they have to attend program at our facility. You attend program, there's a bed always there for you.
Now, what's the number in Scranton that we have? Do you know that?
We're seeing anywhere between 40 to 58 people.
40 to 58. And can you track them?
As in, and what do you mean by track them? Like know where they live?
Do you track, not know where they live, but do we know the numbers at all times, or?
We actually have a tracking system that when they come in, they have to scan in, so we know when they're in our facility, when they're not in the facility. At the same time, we communicate with CIC to make sure that we're not losing anybody in the shuffle that they're getting there. Now, a lot of them will come in for their to sleep, and then they're moving on to the next adventure that they're going on. But we give them those resources. We try to help them get connected to those resources. A lot of times they don't have ID, right? They're from actually Lackawanna. They're actually from Luzerne County, but they don't have ID because they lost it, whether it's stolen, whether it was in a fire, whatever it was. So then we try to connect them to that whole piece and getting them the IDs.
What have the results been like in Wilkes-Barre? Like, how are you doing with the Transformation Center there?
Transformation
What
is 58%
improvements are you seeing?
success.
That's what you're,
When
okay,
it
the
comes to the
58%
shelter
from that.
piece of it, what we basically track right now is who's going in to further their education or further their skills, who's actually moving into getting the resources that they need to get better. I can tell you that of the individuals that come through our building, that come through that 365 shelter, we're seeing about 25% of them that are progressing and moving forward. But we also are losing about anywhere between 20 to 30% that are moving on to the next location, too. So we see a lot of different faces that come through those facilities in Wilkes-Barre. Vice versa, we also see a lot of different faces that come through Scranton also, when it was in Code Blue.
Are we seeing an increase in the population in Scranton at this point in time?
Across the nation, there's about a 3% increase, and we are matching that here in Scranton and Wilkes-Barre. There is a 3% increase, and I foresee that that's going to increase even larger, and it's going to skyrocket. When COVID hit, it actually went the opposite direction and started going down across the nation, and we did see that here, going down also. But now that things are kind of settling and that plateau and that anomaly of COVID happened and it's over with, we're starting to see that increase. The U.S. just announced that they had 11% increase across the board for 2024. Something's obviously going wrong, and that's why when we went on our campaign to go across the country and talk about, hey, we're messing up something, and we got to figure out what that new way is.
Justin, are you involved? There's apparently a homeless committee here in Scranton. Are you involved with that, Jess?
The Mayor's Unsheltered
Yeah.
Task Force.
Are you involved with
I
that?
don't know that they've
So
met since you've.
To be fair, I can tell you that I believe the previous executive director was communication with them. I've been here for 3 weeks working in this role right now. I'm all about collaborative and working with other people. They might not like to hear my answers. They might not like to hear where I go, but I do believe that we need to collaborate and work together as a team. So 100%, yes. I would.
So right now, you're based off the Olive Street building.
8 West Olive Street, that's correct.
So have you identified any potential sites that you're considering for the Transformation Center?
All the sites that I thought were perfect are sold now to the public. So we're actually back at square one. I do have two property managers that are looking around for locations. They're the ones that help me find these locations.
Are you trying to focus more toward the downtown area or like in neighborhoods or?
That's actually a really good question. And so if we look around the country of where they have homeless shelters presently right now, and I'm talking about those 365 shelters, the overnight shelters, they are downtown. So if you look at Lancaster, right, they have the York Mission, they have Water Street Mission, which is down in Philadelphia area. They all are actually in downtown, right? So the problem you have then is, and I'll even say Wilkes-Barre's, our one that we have in Wilkes-Barre is downtown, right? The catch to it is running a program that is actually shows responsibility and security also. We realized that when we had it in Wilkes-Barre, right, that the individuals were outside and they were causing problems. They were actually breaking in, again, they're in survival mode, right? So it's not their fault. This is how it goes. It's survival mode. They were breaking in across the street into the county car lot that was in there, right? They were going in. There was a lot of issues going on.
Sure.
So we actually controlled that. And how we control that is we have to set up rules in there. And again, they understand rules. They know how to work together as a team and make sure that it's successful. And here's the thing. They know they have a place to stay at night. So they don't want anyone to ruin it for them, right? Where it's going to be shut down. So they kind of help each other out and say, listen, hey, let's just follow the rules. If this is a smoking area, let's go to the smoking area, and let's not smoke out in front of the building. Let's go to the smoking area and smoke. So they kind of work with each other, And now we have it to a system where they're better than we are in policing it, you
Sure.
know, and doing that, so.
Well, I don't have to tell you, homelessness is such a complex issue. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, yeah, so you're dealing with anywhere between 80 to 30 different trauma scenarios in someone's life.
Right, and then, so one of the biggest challenges, I think, for cities too, is, number one, we know there's a problem. We know that it needs to be addressed. We like to be a city with a heart, but at the same rate, we also have property owners who expect, they expect our city to be safe. They expect, reduce violence, not to be harassed on the streets and things like that. So that's one of the biggest challenges, I see is trying to address a major issue while still trying to respect, citizens who are taxpayers, who, want their property protected, and quite frankly, we want the streets to be safe when people are in their neighborhoods or in downtown Scranton. So, believe me, I applaud you for everything that you're doing, and you appear to be extremely passionate about what you're doing. And I'm a short timer on council now. I have probably about 8 or 9 months left here, but I would certainly like to see this body and the city administration work with you to try to come up with some type of plan, because we know it's a serious issue for our city, and not just for our city, but many cities across the United States. But some of the things that we've had to face, we've had a lot of homeless camps down on the trail. They're setting up across from Scranton High School, along the expressway, and some people have been approached or intimidated along the trail. There's a lot of walkers and runners and young kids that go along there. But at the same rate, we know that a lot of these people are in incredible crisis. Some it's drug addiction, some it's the mental issues, some have gone through tremendous trauma in their lives, or whether there were deaths in their families or what have you, lost jobs. And like you said, there's a million stories in the naked city, and each one is kind of unique that you're working with. So that's why I opened up by saying it's an incredibly complex issue, and no matter what happens, I know that there's no easy answers to this, but I would like to see council, along with the administration, to do whatever we can to help work toward trying to help you resolve this.
And I appreciate that, and I think that's why when I did this transformation center, I needed to find that sweet spot. How long does it take, right? And a year and a half of them living with us, trying to break that survival mode. I mean, imagine that, there was a study done that showed that 3 days of being homelessness, like that means 3 days out on the street living homelessness, it takes a year for them to get back on track. So we've lost them after 3 days.
Justin, are you a native Scrantonian?
So I'm actually from Wilkes-Barre area, and I will tell you that, so let me bow back at my story here. So I lived in Mountaintop area, Wilkes-Barre area, came over here as the executive director, worked there. My beloved wife actually got a job over at Penn State main campus, and I followed her with her, and that's why I stepped down as the executive director. And then they asked me to come on. After looking at what was going on at this mission, my goal is to turn it around and make it.
So are you departing your position in Wilkes-Barre?
Well, no, we're combined. Wilkes-Barre and Scranton are the same organization.
So you're still going to be working with both?
I'm still going to be working with both. But I live actually in State College. But I live here Monday through Friday up in a hotel room. I won't put any plugs for hotels. But I live in a hotel. And one thing I do want to say is, because I'm so passionate about this, I'm not taking a paycheck. I'm doing this 100% free for the organization, because I believe in it, I believe in what they do, I believe in the direction that they're going to go. And our board is an aggressive board. They're willing to step forward and put it out, and make sure that we can get this done. There has been problems, right? I think that's one thing that we need to address, is that there's been problems. And that is probably the reason why I'm now came on as the executive director. There was issues that was previous. I know that some of you were texting my first day on the job. I got text messages from people and asking, and we understand. There was, obviously, with a change of leadership, there was an issue, and we tried to relieve that issue as fast as possible. Right now, we're on full cylinders. Full staff hired. We have, everything is on full cylinders. The only thing we don't have is that new generation. What are we going to do? How are we going to move forward from it? I'm a visionary. I think 3,000 miles above sky limit, and then I need people to bring me back down, right? I have the pie in the sky, and then how do we make that move forward? I truly feel, and I agree with you 100% in that, yes, we do have that issue. Again, it's survival mode, right? I understand why they do that behavior. I understand it, but someone walking down that street doesn't understand that behavior, right? And that's
Right.
kind of scary for them.
And also people that live in, like we've had people, and we get a lot of calls and a lot of emails, complaints about issues near their home where they're paying their taxes and they're trying to have a nice neighborhood. And
No, and
there's
I
urination and all other things happening like that.
I get that 100%,
Sure.
right? And I understand that. But we can work together to make that happen, right? I get the same emails. Mine are a little bit probably more aggressive. I've had my tires slashed. I've had, people telling me that, get out of my neighborhood down there on Olive Street. That doesn't stop me from doing what I'm doing. I still have the passion for what it is. That comes with the territory.
Sure.
For me, that doesn't even faze me one bit. What I want to do is make sure that their lives are spoken, the ones that I deal with, the ones I see every day, that their lives are spoken, that they have the chance and the opportunity that everybody else has. I will tell you that about 70% of them, it's something that happened in their life that turned them around in the wrong direction. And all we got to do is just try to figure out what that is. When I was executive director in the past, I took my truck and I drove people to rehab in my truck because they were ready to go to rehab. We'll do what it takes to get there. People can say, hey, it's easy to figure out the quick fix, right?
Right.
But it's not a quick fix. It's a fix that's going to take everyone to work on there. Even Wilkes-Barre is not the quick fix right now. We still have issues in Wilkes-Barre, right? We're on the right path,
Right.
going in the right direction, but we can get Scranton in that same exact direction. One of the things I want to do differently is that we need to start utilizing other agencies together to work together, put them on the same plate. We fight too many among each other for those dollars, right? That's where the problem is. When that money comes down and everyone says, okay, I need that money, wouldn't it be great to just put that money towards one mission that everybody works together?
Right.
Or one project, bad choice of words, one project that everybody works together with, right? That's what my dream would be, I can see, and they've already done it. I mean, we've already had meetings. CIC and Catholic Social Services have worked with us now, right? That was the first time that I've ever seen that happen, that all three of us are on the same page, working together, saying, how can we fill your gap? What can you do to fill my gap? What can you do to fill my gap? That's amazing, right? And that's here in Scranton, right? I don't have that in Wilkes-Barre yet. That's what I want in Wilkes-Barre, That's what's happening in Scranton right now. That's the first step. That's the hardest step, right? It's putting your ego coat on the rack and saying, okay, let's get things done. Let's make sure we can get things done and not take the credit and say, it's all for me, it's all for me. It's saying, how can we work together as a team? And so you got that here in Scranton. We just got to now energize it.
What can we do as a legislative body to help support this?
So I think the biggest one is we need to find a location. If we find the location, I think with all the organizations and nonprofits out there, we can put our heads together and really make this operation work. I did look at some locations that people have told me to go take a look at. They're not conducive to the operation piece
How
of it.
big does it have to be?
So everyone always asks me that question, right? And so I would tell you that you make it too big, it's a waste of resources. You make it too small, then now you have to build another one, right? So what's that sweet spot? I would tell you that Wilkes-Barre, we think we have that sweet spot. We're right around 70 beds in Wilkes-Barre.
70?
70, 70.
7.
Yep.
Okay, well, 70.
And so my goal with that is, and we've already worked with Catholic Social Services up there, is that they have a shelter, right? And so if they're empty, why are we having people in there? There should, again, we're wasting resource money.
Right.
Well, their overflow is crazy. And so we still pack our place, and their place is still overflowed, right? So that meets there. Here in Scranton, at times, Catholic Social Services has empty beds, right? At times, they're not. They're filled. And then where do you put the rest, where does the rest go? So when you have that 70-bed sweet spot, you kind of can say, you don't have to turn anybody away, right? You kind of got that sweet spot. I would say, so to answer your question, how big does it have to be if it's a 70-bed? You're looking, so the Thomas C. Thomas building down in Wilkes-Barre? That's our shelter. So what is that? That's like almost...
So you're saying 70 for the 365 shelter, or does that include?
365, but that also includes, we have a day room down there in Wilkes-Barre. We also have, we have a room that's available for the doctor to come in and do medical checkups and everything like that, which we partner with down there. We have counseling rooms in there. We have a kitchen in there. We have, we know that smoking is a way for them to kind of relax, so we actually have a smoking area that they can go to that kind of gives them away from out of the elements, that they can still smoke, and kind of, we try to encourage them to go smoking cessation, but that's a little difficult to do. We have drug and alcohol that goes down there, so it's kind of like your one-stop shop, I guess, if you want to say. We also are working on a work development program. This is something that I've just launched with a lot of business owners in the community. We are in the process, some of the business owners are in the process of working together to get us a bus, and we are going to provide transportation, so those that are sleeping on cots can get showers. Oh, and also has showers and cleaning facilities too in there. So they can get showers, right? They can wake up in the morning, they can get on the bus, and they can go to work, and then they can come back, and they can sleep back on the cot, and so they kind of have that work system in there, but you're sleeping on a cot, but at the same time, we're going to be working with them on their days off on budgeting. All those pieces that we do in the Transformation Center, we're going to start offering them on the days off. So we're trying this out as a model to see if we can do this on a larger scale and on a shelter scale, and then try to, and maybe if this has a success, right, if I beat 17% across the nation, if I can get a 20% success rate, then it's worth it, right? Then we've got a system that's working there. So we're doing a work development model that we're excited about. It's going to be, that's going to be launched in Wilkes-Barre, and we're going to also launch it here in Scranton with the shelters that are here right now, offering that opportunity for work. And we also have LCC that we're working with that's also going to help us with if they want to go back for training, right? If they want to go back for welding, whatever it is, we're going to help them get that navigation system there.
Justin, would you be interested, would anybody be available to go or able to go and have a tour of the Wilkes-Barre facility?
You have my personal cell phone number?
I do.
Just set it up.
Okay,
I was going to ask to
Actually,
come
better yet,
visit
just
before.
pass it on to everybody.
I will.
And then just give me a call. You are more than welcome to open up there. If you really don't want to call me and just show up and walk in. We have nothing to hide there in that shelter, so that, it's locked just for safety reasons, but you buzz the buzzer, we'll let you in. Just say, hey, I'm from Scranton, I want to take a look at this place. And Major, she's the lady that works there. She's 64 years old, has an amazing heart. She will show you around, show you everything that's out there, take a look at it, and you can kind of see what we're looking at here for Scranton.
So I wanted to get back to something that Mr. King brought up. So we have a balance here. We have a balance of helping individuals that are in need of help, and we have a balance of, protecting the neighbors and residents in our community. When it comes to, you're saying 70 beds in Wilkes-Barre, are you seeing that you're maintaining that number of beds? Or I would like to see us reducing the population, and with that meaning getting them into some meaningful work, getting them cleaned up, getting them food, getting them into a career and a livelihood that they could sustain. So are we keeping the same number? Are we sustaining that population? Are we reducing? Are we increasing? Where are we at there?
So here's the dilemma that I have with the 365 shelter, right, is that they're sleeping in a cot. We're taking away the stressor, right, of someone living in a tent out in the elements. But the issue you have is they still have that survival mode. So to
And we're
answer your...
saying year and a half.
To
But
answer-
after that year and a half, are we reducing?
We haven't been open for a year and a half down there yet, but I will tell you that we've had people get jobs. Just today, there was a gentleman that came through our doors. He's from Mississippi. No drug addiction, no mental health, just tough issues going on in his life. He has a wife that is dying of cancer. I mean, there's a lot of trauma that he's facing himself. He said, I'm a cook. Well, guess what? In this work development program that we have, I have a guy that says, I need a cook. And guess where it is? It's on the square. Guess where we are? A block away from the square. We went in, we walked in, he talked to the gentleman. He's now going to be working as a cook there, right? And this guy had a grin that was like, you would have thought that he just won the lottery, right? And that's what makes me excited to see. So we made the connection there. Now we said to him, we got to get you out of here. Like, we don't want you in here. We got to get you out of here. What will that take? Well, he knows that he has to save this. I mean, he's an exception to the most of the rule. He says, okay, I know I need to save this amount of money to put a down payment on a house. Well, we said, no, you don't have to. Not a house, on an apartment. We said, no, you don't have to. We have resources in the community that can help you with that. Let's connect you with that. So we brought them in. He's going to meet with them tomorrow. He's going to come up with a way that there's going to be a first month rent, security deposit produced for him. And then what he's making there will pay for him to stay there month to month, right? The key part to this now is we have to build an aftermath program, right? Once you're in these apartments, that's great, but then the recidivism rate is just ridiculous that they go back to being homeless, right? The survival mode kicks in, they're already lost, they go back to where they know best, how to survive on the streets. So we're trying to build an aftermath program. That's one of the things that I've kind of tasked my operations manager to come out with, is that we need to come up with the aftermath program, which is going to answer your question, is that will prevent people from going back into the shelter, right? They got that extra net, that extra safety net that we're looking out for them.
All right, so now so in order to be partners here, we have to be, good neighbors to each other. How does Keystone, the work, this balancing act of helping individuals, also helping neighbors, how does Keystone ensure that the neighborhood and surrounding area is, they're being good neighbors to those residents there? Because there are neighbors in that Sandy Bank area. I get calls quite often. One of the individuals there has a homeless camp 24 yards from her bedroom window. How do we ensure that either we're policing the people that we serve, they're policing themselves, and they're being good neighbors to the surrounding area around them? Because I think that's the balancing act there.
Right, and I agree, and I think that's when it takes the community to come together, right? I think that there has to be more of this as public, right? And allow them to talk, and allow them to express what's going on, and I'm talking about the homeowners, to express what their concerns are, right? And then hear our end of, like my end, of those that are dealing with the homeless, of what we have, right? And so now we both have an understanding of what's going on. At the same time, we've always opened our doors for them to come in and take a look and see what's going on. There was a concern about, I want to say 4 years ago, it was right 2021, there was a concern of Olive Street, right, of what was going on there. I let them call me. There was individuals that came down and talked to me civilized. We talked to each other, and we understood. And I said, I understand what your problem is. I understand what your concerns are, and it's valid, 100% valid, right? I said, what can we do to make this happen? And so now I said, okay, we're working together now as a team. Let's figure out what we can do to make this happen. And what we did was we decided that we would pay to have security there, right? And that was when we had that big problem with drugs. There was a lot of drug dealers going on down there. There was a lot of, it wasn't just in Keystone Mission. It was just, they were everywhere. It was like, the drugs was just out of control. It was the worst I've ever seen. And so we hired a police officer to come down there and be security down there. The most amazing thing happened, right? Number one is that it protected us, right, and protected the neighbors from what was going on. But that was nothing to compare to see a police officer hand in hand with another homeless individual singing Amazing Grace. And I have the video still. And now the homeless knew that police officer knew the homeless by name, and it became this amazing respect between the two of them, right? And we didn't even plan that. That wasn't even planned. That was just an outcome of the situation. And then it actually prevented more problems than good. And so we're like, wait, we're just going to keep this going. I mean, I'm paying for now camaraderie and actually people talking and this beautiful thing going on. And then we had police officers were actually wanting to do security there. They were actually like fighting to get down there to do that because they loved the atmosphere that was there. And so we can work together, right? It's just we need to sit down and have civilized conversation of what is that we need to do. Right?
Are you aware of any issues that are ongoing in the area now?
So we have made a lot of changes down there. Again, I told you Transformation Center is our focus right now. So CIC, again, God bless them, they're amazing people, they do amazing work. They're helping us with the day room. So we're starting to scale back the day room at our mission, and we're going to upscale that Transformation Center.
Are there
we're
other
going to build that 10-bed unit, or the 10-bed apartment that is going to allow that transformation for 10 women.
Yeah, I think the thing to be aware of, and this is where, again, I'm all for helping, but having that balance of making sure that the people in the surrounding areas are safe. You have, as you said, you have individuals that are in survival mode, you know, and you have a school within, I don't know if it's 1,000 yards.
So-
you have homes right there. You have businesses that are in there.
Understand that was the location that I was adopted when I came on as executive director. That would have not been my location if I was going to put a facility, right? I never asked the zoning board to make 8 West Olive Street the homeless shelter, right? I already knew that. And that's why we looked outside the area into different locations. We found 2 that were great, didn't work out. That's just the direction that it was at. That's fine. I'm sure there's a location somewhere around here. We just need to find what that is that works well with the community, that works well with Keystone Mission, and that works well for the nonprofits and works well with the guests that we serve.
Okay, do you have security down there at the mission on Olive Street at this point in time?
We do not have anyone in there right now to have security. So it's an administration building now.
Okay, so there's,
Well, let me stand corrected. We do have message and a meal. So we do provide meals on the alternating days that the Catholic Social Services do not have meals, which is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and Monday. We have 3 staff members there on that date.
okay. Is there any way we could ensure that the individuals that are staying there and staying nearby are staying clear of residents' homes? What is being done to ensure that that's occurring?
Great question. So I can tell you now, during the day, there's nobody there because it's not open, because CIC is starting to take over for the day room piece of it. But when we do the message and a meal piece of it, we offer them the meal, they get to take their meal, and then they move on. So they either go to wherever they're going, or they don't stay there for their food. They might stay there to get clothing, to get needs that they need, but then they move on. We do tell them that, don't hang around out front, don't, do that kind of stuff. The ones that are regulars that come through our place, they understand it, they get it, they know it, because they know that if people get emails, people get calls and text messages, things are going to be shut down and they're not going to have the privileges, the stuff that they have. But to answer your question, we do police outside. We do have security cameras outside of that building, but that's only going to be now on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night, and Monday night when we hand out the meals.
All right, everyone, we need to start our meeting shortly, so we're out of time.
Yep.
And we will contact you and if
Yep.
anyone wants to go down to do a tour.
Feel free, again, call me anytime. And
Absolutely.
even if you want to talk to me and just ask questions, I'm available at any time.
All right,
Thank you, Justin.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. We'll be back in a few minutes as we get this cleaned up. Okay, 2 minutes.